Thanks, Sips. Morning, David.
Morning.
You got going really nicely, really quickly in the last warm-up game, 20 or 10 or so. Is that just experience on those sort of pitches? Or, I mean, we've heard a lot of talk about how the pitches are going to be very slow, and usually that means quite difficult for guys to get going quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it was, we sort of needed a little blast at the end there to get us to a decent score. But I think there's been a lot of chat in our preparation with slower wickets. And yeah, I think that particular wicket was a little bit low. So, I mean, to be honest with you, the 1-6 I hit was a full toss, so it had nothing to do with the conditions. And yeah, I mean, I just sort of only had a limited amount of balls, so I sort of freed up my mind there and just sort of took each ball as it came. But in terms of the actual games moving forward, we do know that it's going to get slower as the comp goes on. But Abu Dhabi and Dubai wickets conditions, they have seemed not too bad, actually. They're pretty good. I think as the evening games, there's quite a lot of dew, so it will tend to slide on a bit better. But looking at our games, we're all playing afternoon games except for the last one. So yeah, I think we're expecting a slow wickets. We have prepped for those kind of conditions, and I think coming from South Africa, we're pretty waxed in the sense of if it is a good wicket, we well prepared in that sense as well. So
Firdous, followed by Shafiq and Tennis.
Hi, David. David, earlier in the week, Kagiso Rabada spoke a little bit about leadership and, him taking some extra kind of responsibility. Obviously, you probably, I'm guessing, the most experienced guy in the squad. And I remember speaking over the last winter to you about leadership. How you're taking that on? Is there any kind of extra role that you see for yourself in this tournament, especially with Temba coming back from injury?
Yeah, for sure. I think we have mentioned it in the past that it's there are new leaders in the squad, and yeah, I think everyone's sort of fallen into place in the last couple of months since, if I can say, since sort of the Caribbean. We've played a squad that's been quite consistently playing together, so it has been quite nice to have that, and sort of off the field, everyone just sort of aligns into their particular roles. So it's quite nice to have that. And yeah, in terms of leadership, it is really nice to be a part of that. And as you say, just sort of share my experiences. At the same time, like everyone knows, it's all about performance on the field at the end of the day. But with the experience that we do have amongst the squad, I feel like we've got a lot to add off the field. What we've learned in the RPLs, in the previous RPLs, last year being in Dubai, played here in Dubai for South Africa against Pakistan. So in terms of experience in the conditions, well experienced in that department. So it is something that we definitely taking on more and more. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it all plays itself out in results in the game.
Morning, David. Thanks, Sipokazi. So with AB, JP, and Faf no longer there in the middle order, is there extra pressure on you to perform with the bat first of all, and also to score big runs at the back end of the innings and clear the ropes?
No, I wouldn't. Personally, I don't think there's any extra pressure. I've always played for South Africa. When I've always played for South Africa, I've really felt that there's always an expectation, always a certain amount of pressure. There's, regardless of if you're junior or senior, I think, it's always going to be there. So it's about how you embrace that, I suppose. And for me, I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of us to sort of put our hands up in that department. And I feel like I mentioned, we've had a relatively set squad now for the last couple of months. So in terms of our roles, everyone's sort of filling in really nicely. And yeah, I mean, obviously we're always going to miss those kind of players that have not that are not there anymore. But I suppose that's the way of life as well. it gives new opportunity to other players, and take on that role, hopefully better. But it's just a more so a good opportunity for us to do the job.
Dennis?
How's David? Speaking about your role, what exactly does your role entail? Will you be the designated finisher, number 5, number 6? You know where you battle, and is there sort of like a will from your side to also get an opportunity maybe higher up in the order?
Yeah, it seems a question that I've answered a few times, but I think moving into this World Cup, we do see in the previous in this previous RPL there has been really good starts, and in the middle it's really important that teams sort of control that middle phase, not necessarily the middle order. I'm just saying the middle overs. So I think it's really about extending that middle phase and really controlling that, and we've done really well in the last couple of months in doing that, and it really does give you a good platform for the last 4 to 5 overs, as to say. So for my role, I feel like if we lose a couple of wickets up front, is a nice opportunity to bat more overs. But I think I'm going to sort of see myself in that we've all got a open mindset in terms of a bit of flexibility. T20 creates different opportunities, different scenarios all the time. So I think it's just about being quite open-minded in the sense that I could go in the 9th, 10th over, depending on left-right combination with spinner, with a short boundary. I know there's a bit of options there, but it is something that we need to be flexible about. And yeah, I mean, I've taken on the role in the sense of finishing with the Proteas for a couple of years now, and I feel comfortable in that role. It is not the easiest role to take on, but it is something that I've enjoyed and done for the team. So I think it's going to be pretty much the same in that regard, but a little bit more flexible this time around. In maybe there could be opportunities that I go in a little bit earlier.
Telford, Zahir, and then Aditya.
How's it, David? We've had Temba talking about baggage in the past few days, and we had Kagiso the other day refusing to talk about baggage. You were one of the people who, not for your sins, you're trying to lug some of that baggage, and I just wonder, how do you manage it in a situation like this? Do you just say, well, we don't have baggage, or we're just ignoring it? How do you manage the baggage?
Yeah, I mean, each team, it's funny, as I go through the years, each team is different in the sense that how you take it on. But I mean, we do have experienced players in the setup that have been around in a couple of World Cups. And yeah, I mean, in the positive side of things, we've got really good experience, match-winning players. And yeah, I mean, it's something that a team always needs, especially in T20 cricket. And I think from my side, I genuinely don't really like to overthink the past in the sense of taking on baggage and stuff like that. So I just, the famous old saying is you're only as good as your next game. Or they normally say your last game, but Hashim always said to me, your next game. So I think it's about resetting the clock, the mind, everything, and just sort of trying to control, really be in the present. And I think that's something that we've really spoken about, is just preparing really well. And yes, there's a lot of chats about the past and this and that, but it's really about just controlling what we can think of in the moment. And it's very cliche, but it really does help if you reset the clock and you just prepare really well, and you control each game as it comes. It's a difficult one to win a World Cup. I mean, only one team can win, realistically. So things got to go your way. And yes, in the past, maybe things haven't gone our way in certain areas, but it's not something that we are shying away from. We realize it's a great opportunity to change our lives, really, as players, as a team. I feel like, there's been a lot of chat maybe about an inexperienced team, but I see it as a great opportunity where we've got a huge amount of experience actually in our team. Like I mentioned, we've got X-Factor players, guys have traveled all the way around the world, played in many different competitions. Even the inexperienced as such international players have played a lot of domestic cricket, and played and very experienced in that department. And I think if we can just try and bring everything together, all of that onto one page, be nice and clear. Mentioned just controlling what we can control game by game. I think we're going to go a long way, hopefully, into the competition, and achieving what we really are to set and achieve.
Thank you.
Hi, David. It's a follow-up on that question. You talk about the experience and also lack of experience, but when I remember back in 2010 when you arrived in Antigua for the first time, there was a glint in your eye. You were excited to be there, and there's quite a few of those type of players in the side at their first World Cup. So all the talk about pressure and all of that, is there not also a feeling that you guys just want to go out there and have a bit of fun and enjoy this tournament and not feel all the, as you said, leave everything behind? This is a new group that's people not maybe expecting a lot, but just wanting to go out there and have a bit of fun for the next couple of weeks.
That's exactly it. I mean, you only live once at the end of the day, and it's about really making the most of your opportunity and just and really having fun while you do it. I mean, like you mentioned, there's that a new crop of players, and there always is an excitement around it. So I think, I mean, it's we're definitely going into this comp with a clear game plan or blueprint of what has worked the last couple of months, and I feel like if we just stick to our blueprint, and really not overcomplicate things as such, and just enjoy a simple blueprint a game of cricket that we can play, is going to be a good opportunity to do really well.
Thanks, Dave.
Aditya, Matt, Shafiq, and then Ken.
How's it, David? My question is that is the spin threat a bit overstated, given that the last two IPLs, certainly in the UAE, have been dominated by bowlers who have slower ball variations and so on? That's not to say that spinners don't have a role, but do you think that it might be overstated, given that pitches are a little bit slow?
Sorry, just to understand your question. So you're saying the spin, how are we going to play the spin because it's slower conditions? Is that right?
I'm saying that do you think that spinners will have as much of a role as expected, given that fast bowlers and sort of slow ball variations have dominated the last two editions of the IPL?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is, as I mentioned, I would assume that it's going to get slower and slower as the competition goes on. So definitely the spinners will come into play. I feel like we've really come on heaps and bounds again, playing spin as a team. We really are changed our mindset around that, and really feel like there's a lot of things that we've ticked off into our preparation with spin, and different options against the change of pace bowlers. So always talk about preparation, and I feel like we're ticking some great boxes in that department. And I mean, at the end of the day, spinners will come into play. the variations will with the pace bowlers will be something that will happen. And if we expect that and we know how to come against it, I don't see why we can't execute our preparation and our skills.
Matt?
Hey, how's David? We obviously play Australia first up. We saw them playing their warm-up match against New Zealand on Monday. They quite narrowly won that one. We, of course, beat Afghanistan. Just how much can we read into the warm-up games about the rest of the tournament? I mean, is it a good measure of the kind of form we can expect to see, or do you think teams are still making some major adjustments to what are some kind of unique conditions?
Yeah, look, I think I'm all about momentum and taking a lot of confidence from those warm-up games, and just ironing out a few things that you potentially need to do as a team. But I think they're pretty important, the warm-up games. You know, they are often overlooked, but it's an area where we can stamp our authority and work, like I mentioned, iron out a few things. But yeah, obviously watching that game against New Zealand, Australia, it was a really close game. And I think the conditions in that particular game would be a lot different to how they're going to be against them on the first game, the 23rd. So I think it's, day games are going to be very different to, like I mentioned, the dew in the evening plays a big part, and we're not going to have that. So, we've like I mentioned, we've done a lot of discussing about Australia and working out, strengths and weaknesses and where we potentially can exploit them and etc. And those warm-up games, it's nice to watch, obviously, and see their different skills and what they're potentially working on. So there's a lot to take from those warm-up games. And I suppose as batters, it's nice to get out in the middle as opposed to being in the nets, vice versa with the bowlers. Putting yourself under pressure in that warm-up game is vital in terms of executing your slow balls or your wide Yorkers or your straight Yorkers or whatever the bowlers are working on. So I think we would rather play the warm-up game than nets, to be fair. So there's a lot to take from it.
Cheers.
David, with the likes of KG, Nortje, Ngidi, and Shamsi batting from 8 to 11, how much does the long tail affect your batting in the middle order, especially seeing that you've come in with the team in trouble for a lot over the last 2 years or so?
Yeah, it is something that just have to be mindful of. But I mean, at the end of the day, we've had that for some time now, and it's something that the batters are aware of. We've got our all-rounders as well that are seriously dangerous batters. So I feel like we've got a strong enough batting unit. At the end of the day, T20, yes, there might be a game or two where we need our bowlers to pull through with the bat, but ultimately you want to be scoring the bulk of your runs from the top 6. So to be pretty frank, if we don't do that, don't necessarily deserve to sort of win games. So there's a sense of responsibility from the batting side of things, and the guys are have found out ways of coming up with winning scores in the last 6-7 months.
Ken, and then we'll finish with Fidoz.
Thanks. Yeah. David, you mentioned conditions and that South Africa are playing all day games until the last game against England, which is a day-nighter, and conditions could slick up a bit. How different do you think conditions are going to be playing in the day compared to what could be a really, really important game? I guess what I'm asking is, in the day-night games, do you see the toss as being a really vital factor?
Yeah, I mean, Sharjah is quite a different track at the moment compared to what it has been in the past. So I guess, the first power play of that game against England will be quite a critical one, whether we bowl or bat, just to work out conditions, the first 2 or 3 overs to find out exactly what's potting with the wicket. But it has been in the IPL, it has been really slow and difficult, seems very difficult to play. And there were night games there as well. So, seems like there's a lot more dew lately though. So hopefully we win the toss and we bowl first and we get to chase the runs down there in Sharjah. But I think in those kind of conditions, it's difficult to answer your question actually, but we just sort of take it as we come. But we will have night training sessions in terms of preparing, fielding with the wet ball, bowling with the wet ball. Those sort of things are pretty crucial in leading into that last game. The fact that we're only playing one night game, so we will need to prepare as we go along the competition in the evening. I'm pretty confident we will get those boxes ticked.
The last question comes from Fidos David. They just had a power outage, so I'm going to be reading her question out loud. She says, my question is that Temba has also mentioned Hashim Amla's influence, and I'm wondering if there's any further inspiration that you draw from him.
Yeah, the privilege to play with him for many, many years. I suppose from what I've learned with him is to not let failure get you down. Consistency in performance is what we're striving for, but off the field, being trying to be a consistent person as well is something that we need to strive for even more so. And that's something for me, what I've really enjoyed about Hash and his influence, being nice and calm, being there for a pillar of strength, the silent assassin, as they say, getting the job done, but just more so just being nice and consistent as a person leads you onto the field. So it's been a good journey with him, and I still keep in touch with him, and we'll continue to do that during this World Cup if necessary, for any advice or anything like that.
And as that doorbell rings, we'll ring an end to this press conference. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I will make the recordings available as soon as possible in the next couple of minutes. Keep well.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, baby. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, everyone.